Welcome back to our little podcast, where we talk about the occult, the supernatural, and strange lights paired with the ominous floating figures. Welcome back to another season of our podcast as well. I just wanted to start today's episode off by doing a little bit of housekeeping. Keeping you guys up to date and just letting you know what to expect. We're going to start posting on a weekly basis, which is new and scary for us and probably pretty exciting for you guys. And we've also decided to sort of redo how our schedule's going to be season-wise, where we'll be posting 16 episodes a season and 3 seasons in a year with about a month break between seasons, just so that we can record and relax and make sure that we're getting the best quality out there for you guys that we possibly can. But other than that, we're just excited to be back. We're excited to have more episodes, and we're excited to be able to do some fun research and just get into it. So, without any further delay, onto the episode.
If our solar system is not unusual, then there are so many planets in the universe that, for example, they outnumber the sum of all sounds and words ever uttered by every human who has ever lived. To declare that Earth must be the only planet with life in the universe would be inexcusably big-headed of us. Neil deGrasse Tyson, in his book Death by Black Hole. Eva, do you know what tonight is?
I believe it's Wednesday, so it's trash night.
Did you take it out?
I'll get there.
Yeah, it's useful to know. So all of Eva's psycho stands, Wednesday night is when you can get those priceless bits of toilet paper to sell on eBay to her other stands.
I already really regret saying that.
Anyways, tonight is the super blood moon eclipse in Sagittarius. For our listeners who are curious, a supermoon is when a moon is closest to the Earth in its orbit, and a blood moon is when a lunar eclipse pops off behind it. A lot of power in this one. It's a good time for some vanishing work and to look up in the sky and see some shit.
And it's that same desire to look up at the night sky, which leaves us baffled when we see something that really shouldn't be there. This causes us to wonder and to fear if by any chance something or someone was looking back down at us. This is reportedly what happened in the town of Flatwoods in Braxton County, West Virginia, on the night of September 12, 1952. The following article has been reported in the Buffalo Evening newspaper that same year under the title, Author Labels Latest Saucer Incredible, at A.F. Holtz lives. North American Newspaper Alliance, Sutton, West Virginia, October 1st. At sundown on the evening of September 12th, a fleet of pear-shaped objects glow dull red to white, according to their speed of travel, flew in formation over northeastern West Virginia, less than 1,000 feet above the ground, and crashed in Braxton County. Everybody in the state knows about this, and thousands in Braxton saw the things. 2 were nearly hit by them. 8 people could have touched one, but they were too confused and frightened because something came out of an object. On-the-spot investigations by this reporter also have brought to light the following additional facts overlooked in the first reports. The exact point of landing of 3 of the 7 objects is now known. So, this particular incident, as well as probably a few others known about quite universally at this point, made huge national news when it occurred. I'm not sure if this was nearly anywhere as big as Roswell, New Mexico, but it definitely had made national news at the time.
Vendors landing in Roswell definitely was stuff of American legends. What's your input on all these sightings?
I believe that There have been many instances where some weird shit has definitely happened. But if I know anything out of any of the research I've done on either instances that are considered occult, supernatural, or things that are just normal in our society, eyewitnesses' reports are incredibly unreliable, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean that some weird shit didn't go on.
So let's get more into what they saw.
Initially being the object in the sky, like the article had suggested, pear-shaped, and they seem to go between being a dull red to a white, depending on how fast they were going. You're more of the UFO connoisseur compared to me, so I don't know if that pairs up with, mind the pun, with any other sightings in history in the last 100 or so years. But if so, definitely makes it more of an interesting story.
You know what? I'm like drawing a blank. It's funny because it's like I know sporadic bits of information about UFO. I looked into more of different types of aliens because it's great material to work with.
It's funny that you say that about the different kinds of aliens because there's more to the story than just lights in the sky.
Shoot it.
The article continues on. Monster was machine. Apart from a terrific odor, which was long since gone, nothing but some white substance was being analyzed in Charleston has been found. One landing still has to be investigated. Another requires additional search because the area is densely wooded, mountainous, and uninhabited. The 12-foot glowing green monster that has been widely reported as having been seen alongside a glowing cone that landed on a mountain pasture near the tiny village of Flatwoods in this county was not a man or a monster, but some sort of machine like a diving bell. If the 2 frightened adults and 5 intelligent young boys who said that they saw it are not the most experienced liars who have ever lived. So that in itself is one of the most sort of iconic things about what is now today known as the Flatwoods Monster, or the Flatwoods Monster legend, is this very specific, and they will go into more detail, sort of description of not a tiny green man, but instead this almost robotic entity that had left this craft, ship, whatever you want to call it.
Chingadera. I was talking about this episode. Or I kept saying I was like the Fleetwood Monster.
Honestly, like the amount of people I've talked to about this, and I do get surprised by people who haven't ever heard of it or haven't recognized it after being told, is I tell them we're doing an episode about the Flatwoods Monster, and they go like, yeah, I like Fleetwood Mac. I'm like, what?
I talked to my boyfriend about it too. I was like, babe, you know the Fleetwood Monster. He's like, Fleetwood Mac? What the fuck?
But the article does continue on to say that these men, these boys, were, according to the author of this article, definitely not lying. We have questioned these youngsters, separately and together, with and without their elders, for 2 days, and we can report, definitely, that they are not lying. They have drawn pictures of what they saw, and they keep saying it was a 10-foot man, because the top of it was level with a branch of a tree 10 feet above the ground. Its shape was something like an upper half of a hooded man. They say this is because they never have seen a modern deep-water suit. What they described is a truncated cone with a smaller cone on top of it. This little cone has a circular, transparent window in the front, and from behind this, 2 small blue spotlight beams shone straight out. This whole thing seemed to be floating in the air, about 5 feet off the ground, and just as they turned and ran, it glided around towards the huge glowing cone. Personally, I kind of get the feeling that the author of this article is a little biased, honestly. Well, I do feel like it kind of comes around to that classic X-Files, I want to believe kind of moment, where personally I'm getting the feeling that things are falling together so well for this case that he's almost justifying it, leaving no room for falsification or for coincidence. And I'm not saying that I'm completely opposed to the idea that anything happened, but as I said earlier, I don't really trust eyewitnesses. And to be saying that there's zero possibility, or the way he's saying it, that he feels like they're definitely not lying, well, we always have to consider that it's always going to be a possibility. But I tend to be skeptical, personally.
The human brain does funny things. There is such thing as mass hallucinations, and some people can get caught up in the thrill of it all. Sometimes you could see things and it is what it is, but it's kind of hard to tell with authenticity. Lie detector tests aren't reliable, so there's really no way of truly knowing.
And it's definitely, like you said, where the eyewitness can absolutely perceive that what they experience is exactly what happened, but generally when people are afraid, show anxiety or adrenaline, I think we tend to exaggerate things. Not just to other people, but to ourselves. When your heart is beating that fast and you're scared for your life, I think we pick up on certain details and we focus on them a little too much. Like the idea of trying to describe a culprit to a bleached sketch artist and focusing too much on a prominent nose to the point where it's a bit exaggerated on what the person looks like. But I definitely think that something happened. I think something fell. I think they saw something. But I think it's always important that we leave room for error. But the article does continue. More concrete than others, this reporter has been told locally that though a sketch of this object has been made by Miss Kathleen May, mother of 2 of the boys that were present, and has been sent to Washington, the Air Force has decided not to investigate. This is more incredible, since the whole series of incidents is so much more concrete than any saucer report from this country since World War II. And there still are 2 landings to be investigated. The objects that landed are not meteorites, because they traveled horizontally, maneuvered around hills, stopped in midair, and landed vertically. If they are machines, somebody or something made them. If the builders are not Earthlings, but come from outer space, as the Air Force itself once suggested as possibility in an official release 2 years ago, entitled Project Saucer, we would like to know who they are. The answer still may be lying in the densely wooded hills around this quiet little West Virginia community.
So in researching this project and looking about like the Air Force, it is fucking monster. The first thing that comes up is Project Blue Book. That is probably in the popular zeitgeist right now because of the History Channel show that happens to be titled Project Blue Book. Surprise there. And if you don't know what Project Blue Book is, Project Blue Book was a code name for an early study of UFOs, named Project Blue Book because of the blue book that you get in college. It started in March of 1952 because there was a number of reports of UFOs from the beginning of that year and the year before. I can't really find out why they stopped looking into it, but I'm pretty sure if you watch the episode, it might tell you. Remember in the 90s and early 2000s, prior to like Pawn Stars, when the History Channel actually did history, like real history, like now it's all Pawn Stars and Nazis and ancient aliens.
It's a bit of a tangent, but the History Channel has really gone up in the amount of like wild conspiracy. I mean, trust me, I love wild conspiracies, but like wild conspiracies, like entire length episodes, and it's just bizarre.
Yo, I'm just saying, History Channel, I miss the old you.
Why you gotta change?
No, my God, no. Yeah.
I do think this is probably a good time, though, for us to take a moment just to let everyone know about our Patreon before we go into our final thoughts about this article and about this episode. And that is to say that, once again, we're really happy to be releasing episodes more frequently. I know I'm actually pretty excited. I'm really excited about it. But it does take a bit out of us, and it takes a lot of work in order to get these researched, produced, edited, the whole process. So every little bit helps that comes our way. If you would like to support us, consider donating or following us on Patreon at patreon.com/hiddenknowledgecast. Every little bit helps, and it's so much appreciated. We'll have bits of research that we found available for our patrons, as well as bonus episodes throughout the year, but also between seasons. And in addition, you get to have a special shout out at the end just to let you know, hey, we appreciate you and we love you. But with that, let's get back to the show. First of all, I have a question, because I want to know what is it about West Virginia that's just such a magnet for weird shit? I mean, I love it. Have you seen the amount of West Virginian folklore that just, like, I to a degree, I think they just really love having festivals to celebrate, like, weird monsters and cryptids and stuff every year.
I only knew about the Flatwoods, unless there's another...
Mothman.
Oh, yeah!
And I think the Grafton Monster is also a West Virginia thing, too.
The what monster?
Grafton?
Yeah, I don't heard of it.
Imagine a bodybuilder if his head consisted of just more shoulder.
Okay. I don't know why I'm thinking fucking Stretch Armstrong for some reason.
I mean, sure.
Oh my god.
Honestly, I asked the question why, but I do think West Virginia and a lot of places on the East Coast, they just have a lot of cultural roots in folklore.
I know a lot about New Jersey, or as my grandma would say, New Jersey.
New Jersey. You want to do an episode about the Jersey Devil sometime?
Dude, yeah, just because I want to talk about the video game, because that was my shit. I love that video game. Yeah, speaking of, like, video games, did you know that the Flatwoods Monster was in one of the Legend of Zelda games?
Yes, but no. I vaguely remember something like that. Probably in Ocarina of Time, but I barely remember.
Yeah, it was in, like, Majora's Mask or Mahora, whatever the hell.
Oh, it was Majora's Mask?
Yeah. And then, of course, in Fallout, because every monster is in Fallout.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about Fallout 76.
It doesn't exist.
Moving onwards. The Flatwoods Monster, despite the fact that I've had a few friends who just haven't known it by name, is something that has been relatively popular and kind of just sort of a cultural thing. It's one of those things that it's been, 50 to 60 years since then? I mean, I read the date out earlier and I'm sitting here struggling to remember it.
What do you think the Flatwood Monster is? I mean,
when aliens touch ground, my brain always goes, what the fuck is the Air Force doing? I always think, what kind of experimental weaponry have we accidentally dropped in somebody's backyard? That's where my brain usually goes. But it can always be something else, and I think it's that room for error. It's that little tinge of it could be. I feel like the fucking guy from the head, but it could be aliens. But in all reality, that slim pickings right there, possibility, it's what makes it exciting.
You know that there is a conspiracy theory where the government has made alien technology, quote unquote, saucers, and has been responsible for all of these, quote unquote, UFO sightings. And it's so that way they could stage an alien invasion and we would be forced into global domination. That is the proposed theory that was so favorably shoved in my face by History Channel on this research.
Can I just say, when you said stage an alien invasion, my brain went somewhere terrible and wonderful, which was you know what the US government has decided to do? We found populated life and we're going to invade it with UFOs on a different planet and just take over the planet and not let anyone else know. And I was thinking to myself, we would. We would.
What do you think Elon Musk is trying to do? He's being a colonizer.
I think stories and folk tales and things like cryptids and aliens that have been brought up time and time again from generation to generation. I think it's important that we keep talking about stuff like this. I mean, not just you and me, but just as a culture, as society. I think not only does it sort of keep the spirit of what is the unknown, the creepy, everything like that just alive, but it does something for us. It makes us question possibilities. It makes us keep looking up at that night sky and thinking, what if? And I think that's important.
You know, I prefer my dicks to be non-gang affiliated, but I know cryptic is an important part of this. So for our fans. Okay, so we were discussing in our business meeting about, you know, what we're gonna do for new content. I don't know why, but I just kept on calling cryptic. See, I can't say it now. I just keep. It's not cryptics. It's cryptids. But I keep saying cryptics.
Now I'm questioning how I've been pronouncing it this whole time.
Right? Oh, the dicks listen to X-Rated.
On that note, I think that's a good place to wrap it up for this episode.
This was a fun one.
This is a good one to kick the season off, and I'm really excited to see what else we have for you guys, really.
Our Instagram is up. You guys are free to drop in the comments. Just hit us up. Let us know what stuff that you want us to cover. We're interested in hearing.
And with that, I just want to say we appreciate you guys, and until next time, bye. And this is just the point of the podcast where I just want to take a moment to say thank you to our Patreon patrons. I'll let you guys know that we appreciate you and you mean the world to us. So thank you to Ben Turco and thank you to Ruta Pillar. You guys are awesome.